Okay. For those of you just joining, we're going to get started in a couple of minutes. People are joining us now. We'll get started soon. We just start. Just when we're going to get started in just a couple of minutes. For those of you joining us, thank you. Joel, are you on here?
Yes, I am.
Are you able to share on Facebook Live? I don't have the option.
I can do that.
Okay. Thanks everyone for joining so far. There's a few of you joined. We're going to get more joining with us in just a couple of moments, and we'll put on Facebook with a larger audience as well. Just a couple of minutes. All right, so I think we'll get started. We're now on Facebook, and just in lieu of time, I want to be conscientious of that. Thank you for those of you who have joined us for coming on Zoom and being on Facebook Live. I know there's a number of people joining, and we'll be watching later as well. My name is Avi Gordon. I'm the Executive Director of Alums for Campus Fairness. I've been sharing the webinar duties with our co-host, Joel Bond, who's our Associate Director of Alums for Campus Fairness. And this week, we are excited to have Chabad on campus join us and participate in our important webinar series that we've been having for the past few months now. Hard to believe. Chabad on campus is an incredibly important fabric of the campus community. As I just talked to Yossi and Shloime, I was very involved with Chabad on campus as an undergraduate at Binghamton University. I was very proud to be part of it and to play an integral role as much as I could on campus there. And we're really grateful to have both Yossi and Shloime with us, who've taken time out of their busy day. Shloime in all the way in the West Coast in California, and Yossi in Israel, in a beautiful area of Efrat. So we're very excited to be able to have both Yossi and Shloime with us to explain what Chabad's role is on campus and to also share what their duties are specifically on Chabad. And then if any of you have any questions, as per usual, you can go to the bottom of on Zoom at the Q&A and can share any questions you may have. We're happy to answer either in the chat or in the Q&A. Equally on Facebook Live, you can leave a comment, and we're happy to answer any questions that you may have. So without further ado, I would like for Yossi and Shloime to kind of introduce themselves and tell us what they do. Maybe Shloime, we'll start with you.
Okay, hi, Javi. First of all, thanks for having us on, and thanks for Alums for Campus Fairness for everything you do, because the campus climate and campus life has its unique challenges, and it's often difficult to conquer it from within and to overcome those challenges just as a student, and having alums who were once on campus or recently on campus still supporting and guiding and assisting them is very morally uplifting and in the actual support. So thank you for everything you do. My name is Rabbi Shloime Chein. I actually wear two hats, and I don't just mean a kippah and a black Chabad hat on top of that. I mean that I have two positions that I'm sitting here. So first of all, my wife and I run the Chabad Student Center at the University of California, Santa Cruz for about 17 years now, which is a beautiful university, beautiful community up in the Redwoods overlooking the ocean in Northern California. Wonderful students. And so we run a Chabad Center with your regular, those who are familiar with the signature Friday night dinners and Shabbat and holiday programs, classes, one-to-one learning, guidance, social events, trips, whatever the student needs to feel at home, to feel comfortable where they are, and to grow in their Judaism and their own lives. We're there to help them. I hope that's one hat. The other hat I wear is I'm the vice president of student engagement for Chabad on Campus International, which is a collaborative based out of New York to assist the Chabad on Campus network, close to 300 around the world, the local centers. And because Chabad at its roots is really a grassroots phenomenon, it's very bottom up in its whole movement, its whole mindset, and we can discuss that in Q&A or if you have additional questions. So Chabad on Campus International has someone from the field, myself, what runs a local Chabad house, overseeing and guiding what they do to assist the network with student engagement. So that operation itself is very grassroots, with someone who's actually using these programs and living in the field, rather than someone just sitting in a headquarter office in a big city making decisions how to support the network. You have the input coming directly, and that's just one of the apparatuses we use to make sure that we're really in tune to what's going on with people. We're all about people. We're all about local needs. No two Chabads are the same. We all have a similar philosophy. We share the mission to spread the same three loves, which is the love of your fellow, the love of Torah, and the love of God. And we believe each person expresses those three loves in their unique way. And collectively, those three loves make the whole world a better place. And we're very aware that each place has its uniqueness, and we're aware each student has their uniqueness, and that's, you probably experienced it as well. And you see how try to do different, more than not only just different programs, just to flavor things and to be in tune with what individuals need. So this is what I do general, and that second act in Chabad on Campus International, we try to assist the local centers by providing resources for what they're doing locally. We also try to create programs that would be hard for a local center to create something that big, to scale it up that big. So if we create it, we leverage the resources and we create something huge, then each center could then take that and customize it to their experience. So something many students might be familiar with, something called like Sinai Scholars, which is a learning program that gets created nationally, and all the resources that can go into that, and then each local center can deploy it the way it fits their market. And then we also we offer experiences that the local centers can offer. And Yossi could talk a little bit more about some of these, but when we do a giant Pagisha and bring students into New York for a weekend where people can meet each other and experience the energy, just we scale it up so big, you couldn't experience that locally, or to pull off a trip to Israel or to Poland. So these are the resources that we offer, the programs that we offer for local Chabad houses to engage in locally, and the experiences where students can experience things on an international level. That's a little introduction. I pass on the mic back to you and to my friend Yossi.
Thank you. That's it's very interesting. You're clearly a busy man. Wearing every Chabad on campus in their own house is very busy, taking care of their own family, their campus family, and you're doing even more obviously as well. And Yossi, I'd love to hear about what you do and your unique work in Israel itself.
Okay, so thank you for having me. Thank you, Rabbi Chein, for that beautiful introduction, which segues perfectly into the two hats that I wear. I wear a kippah and then I wear a baseball cap because I run the trips for Chabad on Campus. I started the program called Israel Links for Chabad on Campus almost 15 years ago. And a couple of years after that, moved to Israel to run that on the ground. And as Rabbi Chein was saying, the network has, a ton of local Chabad houses with students, and each one holding wherever they're holding for a local Chabad house to pull off a trip to Israel beyond a birthright where they can take their whole group. But to take a couple of students to Israel, it wouldn't be something that's very practical. So our programs will take a couple of students from each campus um, nationally, and we run trips like that. We have to Israel, we have to Poland. Within Israel itself, we have an internship program that we do together with Onward Israel. We've had post-birthright programming that we've done. So that's what I do. Since Corona, I'm looking for a job. Is Alums for Campus? Are you guys hiring? so
Maybe.
so since Corona, I've been helping out in other areas of student engagement. In the virtual space that we're in. There's so much unknown in terms of what's going to be. The next time people are going to be allowed to travel, the next time people are going to be comfortable traveling, and then the next time parents are going to be comfortable. Jewish parents be comfortable allowing their kids to travel. So that's something that's in the longer term. But right now we're doubling down in our efforts within in the virtual space. With student engagement, doing virtual learning, workshops, activities, leadership training. We have a program starting next week that we're doing, and I'm looking forward to things not going back to normal, but being even better than they ever were.
Absolutely. I'm in from your mouth to God's ears. But I'd love to, Yossi, maybe go back to you and learn more about, what makes, why is it important for Chabad to have these Israel programs, and obviously birthright is a major part of Chabad on campus's role. It seems like every Chabad on campus has a Mayanot trip, but that's obviously every birthright trip. You're just scratching the surface. You're only seeing a little bit of Israel. It's a great starting point. But what differentiates you from another, provider for a trip to Israel?
Okay, great question. So I could tell you specifically about our program, how it was born, and that will answer your question. But I'll also maybe take a step back and begin a little bit about what Chabad on campus does, and just as an introduction to what Rabbi Chein will expound on, because he's obviously the senior, more intelligent, intellectual, and he can give it over better. But at Chabad on campus, together with all the love and the acceptance, we believe that young Jewish people today are not rejecting Judaism. They're just not familiar with it, and they haven't been exposed to it. And one of the biggest challenges is getting in front of them in order to be able to share with them the beauty of their tradition and their history. And Birthright is a tremendous opportunity for that. Someone's paying for it. It's coming to Israel. It's a good time, and every experience that we have on campus kind of has that element as well, where we just students, if we only get the opportunity to just share with them the beauty of their own traditions, then they get more involved, and then the sky's the limit, and then if they choose to incorporate it more or less in their life, that's their own decision. So with our Israel trips specifically, there was for a while there was Birthright began, and then there was the second Intifada, and there were very few Birthright trips that were actually coming, and then it started to build up again. Once things quietened down over here. At about the same time, Chabad on campus went through a tremendous growth. You went to Binghamton, and the Slunims are the legends on Chabad on campus, and they were out there when you could count on maybe your hands and your feet the amount of full-time established Chabad on campus centers. But it was like that for a while, and then around 2000, the late 90s, early 2000s, the Rohr family got involved at Chabad on campus and made a tremendous effort and funding in order to expand Chabad on campus. So you had Birthright was was really starting to pick up. Chabad campuses were opening up, all over the country. From the 20 or 30 that were established for a long time, we're now almost 300 full time. So you had students coming back from Birthright to their local Chabad on campus, and then had a great experience on Birthright, wanted to learn more. Comes the next break, winter, summer, and they want the next level of experience. Now, the other options that there was make aliyah, go study in a yeshiva, or go live on a kibbutz for a year. And these students went from 10 days enjoying Birthright, coming to the Chabad house, enjoying, the environment over there. They weren't ready, for these major, life-changing. So that's when we started our Israel Links trip, which is a 2.5 to 3 week where it's not Birthright, but you're not moving to Israel. It's not Birthright traveling, every day, early morning to late at night. We get time to spend more time in each area. There's a learning element where we learn about Judaism, about the land of Israel, dig a little bit more beneath the surface, and so that's what's different from our program than the other trips that are out there. I guess similar with each of the other experiences that we're involved in. We want to have the added value, the educational element, the welcome and opening environment that people experience in the Chabad house, to be extended to their Israel trip or their Poland experience, etc.
I always forget that I mute myself. That's great. Thank you for explaining that. I think it kind of leads to a question that I had, perhaps for both of you, and that's, how does Chabad on campus instill pride and a commitment to Israel among Jewish college students? Maybe Shloime, maybe you can take a stab at that a little bit of the work that happens on campuses on the ground, of how do you create that connection, that powerful connection, on top of obviously that Israel connection that Yossi just talked about, the trips that you do, but what about on campuses?
Yeah, this boils down to one word, which is education. And as Yossi said before, people are not rejecting things because they don't like it. It's often something you don't know, or you're told, and especially when it comes to Israel, when you're fed a certain narrative all the time in news media or in a college environment by professors or extremist groups, and you don't know, you just don't know. You just grew up without the knowledge. And once you learn, education really starts deeper. Once you learn what it means to be a Jew, once you learn what's your heritage, what's your history, what's your calling, what's the contributions Judaism brought to the world, you start feeling a sense of pride in being a Jew and being Jewish. And it's a beautiful thing. You realize I have something to share with the rest of the world. I have something beautiful. And then when you learn the centrality of Israel in the Jewish story, in the Jewish mission, you understand how it connects to the Jewish people. And it's not just a nice place on the Mediterranean coast with great nightlife and shawarma and camel rides, but it represents a holiness that can really permeate throughout the rest of the world. It represents our history. It's intertwined with our story. It's intertwined with our mission. It's a place, in Hebrew we call Eretz Yisrael, Eretz HaKodesh, the Holy Land, and they call that in English, the Holy Land. And because it's about what it represents, and when you learn what it represents living holy and making any land holy. And when you learn this story and this history, you feel a sense of pride. Now, you might also need an education because you hear a lot of lies about Israel, a lot of accusations about Israel. And so you're conflicted, and some of those accusations fly in the face of your core values. Some of these human rights accusations and discrimination fly in the face of your core values. And how could you not be upset? Especially when it's so close to home. It's called the Jewish homeland. And really, they're acting this way, which is so antithetical. But again, education. When you learn the truth and you don't get stories that are just spun a certain way, you realize that that's what they are. They're lies. And you realize I don't have to live on the defensive. I can live proud of what this 4,000-year-old association to this land represents in my day-to-day life, even if I live in America, even if I'm not an Israeli, even if I never plan to visit Israel, or I haven't been there in a while, or I won't be there in a while. There's so much that it enriches my life. And this ties into, everything. Like I say, it's simple education about Judaism, when we know something, and it's not only about Judaism, it's everything in the world, when we learn about it, when we learn the effects that we have on our environment, we care more about our actions and how it affects the environment. When we learn about discrimination somewhere, we're like, really? That's happening? We want to change that. We want to fight that. If we live in ignorance and we don't know about it, we just go about our day-to-day lives without realizing how much of a contribution we can make in any given area or how we can do things differently. And if we live without knowing the Jewish history, the Jewish values, and how Judaism guides us on a day-to-day level, that Judaism has wisdom for us to get good grades in school and to get through a party in a healthy way and not in a destructive way, and to make the wise career choice and to succeed in an internship, we would be tapping into this all the time. But often we have this impression, what is Torah and what is Judaism? It's some childhood stories, some fables, some Noah's Ark, or some rituals, some archaic rituals for some people who want to live in the ancient world. They want to call themselves Orthodox. And Judaism was never about that. Judaism was never about being limited to a specific place or to a specific group of people. The whole Jewish people are called Am Kadosh. It's a nation, a holy nation, or Mamlechet Kohanim, a kingdom of priests. There's access here, there's beauty here, there's relevance here, there's a purpose here, there's a need here for each and every individual, each in their own way. That's why we're created different. And when you learn to look at a Jewish text and realize it's not only its modern relevance, but its unique relevance to you versus Samantha who's sitting next to you, or John who's sitting on the other side of you, and you realize, wow, this is so up to date. This is so custom tailored to my own spiritual experience. You walk around with a sense of pride. I remember, like a number of times in Sinai scholars classes, where you often have students who have just never knew Judaism before. They just didn't know what it was, and they would come out of these classes or other classes and like, Rabbi, I used to walk around, oblivious to my Jewish identity, sometimes even somewhat embarrassed of my Jewish identity. I'll never live the same way again. I feel proud to be Jewish.
Excellent. I mean, I think that boils down to, for me as well, for me as in alums for campus fairness, education as well. Alumni are always trying to stay involved. I think everyone's very proud of their alma maters and very proud of what they do, of what they did on campus, and I think a part of that is also, for many of them, is their perhaps experience of Judaism, whether positive or negative, frankly. And I think it's an important kind of conversation to have on when it comes to Judaism is also, that's very important in a large aspect of alums for campus fairs, and that's the rising tide of anti-Semitism. And because there's so much, we're seeing a lot more overt anti-Semitism on campuses across the country. And I want to hear from you, Chabad's perspective on, how do we ensure the safety of the Jewish students on campus? I mean, we saw, I think it was, I forget which school it was, where, Chabad Nora was defaced and taken down. Chabad is obviously, they're outwardly Jewish in a good way. It's not something that they want to hide or that you want to hide or can hide. And I'm curious, because of the rising tide of anti-Semitism, what steps is Chabad on campus taking to ensure the safety of the students on campus?
Oh, that's a big question. This was almost the dominating question before Corona hit. This is where all our minds and energy was. It's incredible how, I think just a few months ago, the direction we were going and the crisis we were reacting to and trying to assist Jewish students in was exactly that. And then it, suddenly the Corona thing hit. So, of course, there's the physical security of making sure Jewish students are safe in any apparatus, whether that's security in a Chabad house or having police patrols at Jewish events on campuses, or teaching students to be vigilant on campus, or working with campus administrations to offer the Jewish community the proper security. And then there's advocating and lobbying for change and to enact certain ordinances or laws or measures to thwart overt expressions of anti-Semitism and how they're perpetrated on campuses, sometimes in the name of freedom of speech, or the opportunity to use public space, and often they're clear violation of a campus ordinance or state law. And then it also comes back to education. And so one of the things we're working on right now in the Chabad campus is a course on anti-Semitism, which should help Jewish students understand where it comes from, how to deal with it in various ways. There isn't one solution, but it stems from one of the greatest threats of anti-Semitism is that we start believing it and we start shying away. Obviously, the physical threats, and those are, you have to take very, very careful. But when I say one of the greatest threats, is because, relatively speaking, the physical actions happen on few people. Now, each life we know is an extreme importance. Each incident, never mind if it's just, losing a life, God forbid, but any incident is of extreme importance. But proportionally, that happens on a very few percent of the people. Where more people feel the damage of anti-Semitism, is many people, is just the way they feel, the way they hear the Jewish story, which makes them either shy away from being Jewish in public. They don't want to tell anyone they're Jewish. They feel bad for being Jewish. They start believing into some of those stories. Some kids don't want to wear their Chai or Magen David necklace. And some students don't want to hang up a mezuzah anymore. And some students don't want to do a public menorah lighting. And, when we had BDS rampant on our campus, the Jewish students who were in student government didn't want to go around to the student government councils to request funding for the Hanukkah party because they felt isolated. They didn't want to stand up for a Jewish program or a Jewish holiday. And so one of the key elements of fighting anti-Semitism is fighting it in our own psyche, fighting it in our own understanding, which comes back to education, to understand who we are as Jews, to understand the illness called anti-Semitism, and that no student should ever buy into it, that it has legitimate claims, and therefore their life needs to be lived any differently. I think Rabbi Jonathan Sachs said something, anti-Semitism is a problem of the hater, not of the hated. We're not doing anything wrong, which often you feel that way. If if there's loud voices yelling at you and you're a nice person, you wouldn't yell at someone or make accusations at someone falsely. So you think if people are making accusations against you, you're probably doing something wrong. And so you look inward. How could I change? How could I fight anti-Semitism? By me being different, rather than realizing you have no problem. You're a beautiful human being. You're doing wonders to the world. Haters, bigots have problems, and various problems. And by learning about those things, gives you the strength inside to deal with the problem amongst others in a healthy way. And then there are practical steps as well as, really the vast majority of people are not anti-Semitic. The few people make a lot of noise. And really Jewish students, most of the people they encounter on their campus are their allies, are their friends who want to help them. And if you're not feeling so threatened and so paranoid and so intimidated, then you work with the allies, you form coalitions with other student groups, with other organizations. If you buy into the anti-Semitic claims that you did something wrong, you're not going to reach out for help because you feel you're in the wrong. But when you recognize that you only have reason to be proud to be a Jew, you only have reason to be proud to support Israel, and you're doing the right thing, then you feel comfortable to have a conversation with another student group, with administration, with faculty, and together the love and the positivity stands much stronger and prouder than the hate. And this goes back to what I said before when I started to thank alums for campus fairness, because that's part of where the reaching out is. When you have people who already left campus and they're not trapped. There's an expression in the Talmud that a prisoner can't free himself and a sick person can't heal himself. You need to reach outside, somebody who's objective, someone who's looking from the outside in, somebody has more life experience, somebody has more connections. And when you have, it's such a beautiful thing. I mean, when Ephraim Marovich told me earlier this year that you guys are starting to work together, and he told me about the organization, I hadn't heard it before. It's such a beautiful thing that there are alumni, volunteering of their own to go back to their alma mater and to support the situation that's going there, because that's really what it needs. It needs the voice of truth, the voice of love, and the voice of reason to speak louder than the voice of hate. It needs the victim to understand that they're not doing anything wrong, that they have nothing to be ashamed of. On the contrary, they can only be proud. And here we are to support you. And Chabad is trying to do that in its way as well. And here's the beautiful thing. The reality is, really, what Chabad does every day fights anti-Semitism. And that is making Jews prouder about being Jewish, making them more educated about being Jewish. When you know who you are, you know what you stand for and why you stand for it, you can face anything. Chabad has a long history in the persecution of communist Soviet Union and Tsarist Russia, and wherever they are around the world, you won't see Chabad rabbis fazed by anti-Semitism. It's not because we have Navy SEAL training. It's not because we're tough guys. I mean, a lot of us come from Brooklyn, so there is a little toughness there. But it's not because we're tough guys. It's because we have a Jewish education, and we're confident in who we are and what we're doing, and we're proud of it. We know we love humanity. We know we love every person we encounter. We don't harbor any of these ridiculous accusations of discrimination or hate, etc. We know this truth. We're proud of who we are. So when we see someone yelling, we have pity. We have pity on this person. Oh, you're so ignorant. You're living in such a darkness. And this is so every day. This is what we share with students every day in our mission. It's not just reactive to anti-Semitism. Every day, by empowering Jewish students, by giving them the values of Judaism, by helping them feel comfortable in a Chabad house and have a Jewish community and a Jewish family, by encouraging them to share their values with all their friends, Jewish or not Jewish, and to live proud, happy. You're creating an immune system that can fight the virus called anti-Semitism.
I'll just add to that.
Go ahead, Yossi.
Rabbi, while you unmute yourself, I'll just add to that, and it's related both to the Israel question, also the anti-Semitism question. Rabbi Chein started to touch on it now. I was one time sitting in on a meeting where we were trying to solicit a large gift, and in a very friendly way, the donor said, "I know you Chabad guys. You just want to take the money," and it was a discussion about Israel. Maybe it was got to do with our trips. He said, "I know you Chabad guys. You just want to take the money and you can use it to study Torah and to put on tefillin on people, and you're saying Israel." And one of my colleagues said, "No, you're missing the point. Studying Torah, putting on tefillin, creating the solid Jewish identity is the biggest thing that we could do to create advocates for Israel, to create people that will stand up for anti-Semitism." And he put it to him straight. He said, if there was an issue on a specific campus and we needed a student, we were looking for a student to step up, who do you think is more likely? Which Jewish student is going to step up? Somebody that comes to Chabad every week? Somebody that maybe studies with the rabbi or with the rebbitzin every week? Somebody that went on not only birthright, but on a follow-up trip and is more familiar with and more in depth with Israel, with the experience, with his Jewish identity? Absolutely. So when it comes to both Israel and anti-Semitism, and I would venture to say, and this isn't official Chabad policy, but 98% of situations of anti-Israel, it's anti-Semitism. What are we doing about that? We're creating strong, educated young Jews who, when put to the test, will do what that Chabad rabbi, and it's happened multiple times, did when his menorah was vandalized. He didn't pack up and move out of town. He put up a bigger menorah and dug it in, a half a foot lower, deeper into the ground, so it'll be even stronger.
It's definitely very powerful because we've seen it even at the tragedy that happened at Chabad Poway, where they came back stronger than ever and louder than ever, and I think that's very, very powerful. And to that vein, and Rabbi Chein, you also mentioned this idea of like how powerful it is for alumni to come out and to help as well. I wanted to know either of your thoughts on how can the Jewish community more effectively support these Jewish and Zionist students on campuses? What can the community be doing more to help them, in your opinion?
So what's that expression? An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of medicine. The first thing that the Jewish community could do is give their children a solid Jewish education. And so if we give our children a solid Jewish education, when they come to campuses, they will be well equipped, well inspired, well knowledgeable to deal with this. And so we shouldn't only be looking. Now, I know we have to answer the question because right now there are students on campus and we have to help them. But sometimes the Jewish community gets invested strategically in band-aids rather than in remedies. And so I wanted to express that first, that strategically the Jewish community should be looking, and alumni, and you're raising kids, don't underestimate the value of giving your child a Jewish education. And it's not just you saying that so the child knows how to ask the Manashtana at the Seder, it's that your child knows how to walk through life feeling proud of who they are because they are Jewish. And why should they not understand what that means? It's about giving your child the tools to succeed in life, to make a difference in the world. And in this context, it's about giving your child the tools that when they come to a campus, they won't be intimidated, they'll be proud, they'll be able to create change. In addition to that, what I think alumni and community members can do is, of course, some of the advocacy, which has to do with lobbying. If you're a contributor to an alma mater, you have clout because you're giving, you're supporting the school. If you have old connections there because you built relationships and now you have partnerships, with faculty or administration, whether it's in business or other organizational activities, or even if you're on the alumni association, people in the university community that have a power dynamic to students, and students often can't express themselves, but a community member, an alum, can call up and ask to speak to a dean, ask to speak to a president, ask to speak to a head of a department, ask not only just a blatant letter or statement, but to build relationships, to build a relationship, to say, hey, I went to school here, in 62, I went to school here in 71, I went to school here in 58, I went to school, remember me? Let's go off, I'm coming to town, we meet up for coffee, and then you reminisce about the school, and then you build a personal relationship, and then you can educate the faculty and the administration. The Jewish students are not the only ones who are not educated about the real narrative of Israel and what's really going on there, and the real threats that Israel faces, and the real beautiful gestures of peace that it has made repeatedly. Many people, they're in their own world, they're in their own field of academia, they're doing their own thing, they don't know all the details, they just know the soundbite news. And then when they are addressed, it comes from an organization, and so that they're picked one organization, another organization, the right organizations versus the left. They don't want to catch themselves in the middle. But if you are a community member, if you are an alum, you have the ability to educate through personal relationships. You're not toting the line. You're calling somebody up. You're sharing truths. You're not selling a story. You're not promoting a narrative. This is not any type of propaganda. You're going to meet somebody who you were invested in that school, in that community. You're going to share. You're going to reminisce. And you're going to share a truth. The next time this comes up on that campus, the students there will have an ally. They'll have somebody who understands them, or this person, or when this person's being attacked and is in a moral dilemma, and and the Jewish students are screaming, "Don't allow this," and the anti-Israel students are screaming, "You must allow." And this administrative official's in a dilemma, what to do? Where do I put myself? They'll have a number to call. They'll call you back. And they'll say, could you give me some guidance? Hey, John, it was so nice we met 6 months ago. It's inflaming on my campus. So that's something else students can do. Alumni and community can do. And then in any way possible, give support directly to the students. Whether you're supporting the Hillel, the Chabad, the Jewish student groups, or whatever other group, and whether it's a financial support, or you're coming to a Shabbat dinner, or you're coming to an event, or you're reaching out and you're saying, guys, I have this opportunity. I have a beautiful home up in the mountains. Why don't you bring students here for Shabbat? And then spend time with the students and let students interact with you and see that they are not alone, that there are adults who have life experience. There are adults that went through the same campus who are in this together with them.
I think that's actually really important. What you just said is that, we're there to support, for the students to see that there's alumni and others in the community who support. And that's what we drive home a lot at Alums for Campus Fairness, is that, there's been issues that happen on campus, and it's so important to have this unified alumni voice to come together to counter bigotry, so that students realize that they have an entire constituency who has their back and who understands what happened at the quad on their campus and knows exactly who this professor is, or maybe remembers the same Chabad rabbi has been there for a million years, like the Sloanims have at Binghamton, where they've been there since the 80s and they've known for generations now, and we can go back and reminisce about that time, so you create a connection. But it also shows that there's that support, which I think is incredibly important for students to feel that support from a different perspective, than just from maybe it's professors quietly who are helping, and maybe it's professionals, but also to hear from alumni who have skin in the game as well, because they, obviously universities care about their reputation and their donor dollars that come in, and those are two things that alumni can shape. And not every alum gives back in a monetary way, but maybe they give back in a different type of way, and that's still just as important. I wanted to continue the conversation and ask either of you, why do you think that the demonization of Israel and its supporters has become so normalized on campus? Maybe, Shloime, you've seen a lot at Santa Cruz, that this kind of vitriol, this hate is so inherent and a part of campuses. Maybe, Yossi, you've heard stories on trips that you've led from students who have experienced it. Why do you think this is spreading so much more on campus and has become such a normal, almost like a normal part of the experience now on campuses?
Yossi, I've been doing a lot of talking. Do you want to share first?
I'll start you off. I'll start you off with something that we've learned from our Rebbe, the leader of the Chabad movement, that during the 50s and the 60s, when you had the anti-war protests and the hippies and all of that. So people, especially in the Jewish world or in the religious world, were very scared of that and pushed it away as if like these people have lost the plot and this is terrible. And what the Rebbe saw, there was a tremendous amount of potential. The Rebbe saw a yearning. The Rebbe saw an awakening. And as it relates to your question, young people, right, are impressionable. They want to do the right thing. When they see an injustice, they want to do something about it. And therefore, when given bad information, or when there is this demonization that exists, and maybe Rabbi Chein can get into where that comes from, even from biblical times. It's not something new, but when they see that, and so they care about it. When they see suffering or an injustice, they care about it, and a lot of times it's only a matter of correcting the facts in order to make that change. But it's something that I think is coming from a very good place, right? Whether it's Jewish or non-Jewish students, they're young and they're passionate, and they care about injustice, and they want to do something about it. Unfortunately, we're losing the PR battle that Israel, the Jewish people, somehow are the victim of, or the imagery that people associate with it is a negative one. But I think very possible it does come from a good place.
Well said. I touched on this before, that when students see this as it's portrayed to them that there are human rights violations and discrimination, and this, not to mention genocide. This is the stuff that students care about, rightfully so, except that here it's misguided. To put in some other terms, there are scholars who say anti-Semitism is a virus, and today we're living in a virus climate, and I think that's a very appropriate analogy. And there are a few things about a virus and why it's so important to understand this analogy, anti-Semitism being a virus. One of the things is that a virus mutates in order for it to succeed, because once people pick up on what it is, anti-Semitism, we live in a world today where hate is vile. We don't like to hate. And so for the virus of anti-Semitism to succeed, it has to find itself, it puts itself with another face, it's really a call for justice. It's really a call for, standing up for the underdog. And throughout history, anti-Semitism had this mutation. Whatever was the popular call of the masses anti-Semitism portrayed itself that the Jews were the opposite of that. And when religion was the call of the masses, so the Jews were the Antichrist. And when the problem of the masses was a plague and people were dying, so the Jews were poisoning the well. And when the call of the masses was economic unrest, then it was either the Jews that are being too poor or the Jews that are moving off society. So now it became a financial issue of the Jews. And then when race became a big thing, oh, now the Jews were the inferior race. Whatever the popular culture is, the carriers of the virus plant it through that language. They make it stick through that language. Today, we live in an era, it's a beautiful era. It's a testament to the progress of the world, that the passion of the world is not money, and it's not even science, and it's not nationalism, it's goodness. We want to stand up for anybody who's suffering, we want to help them. So anti-Semitism puts itself in, oh, beautiful, you want to stand up for goodness? The Jews are anti-goodness. You want to stand up for human rights? The Jews are anti-human rights. And that's the current mutation. The other beautiful things about a virus is that many people, innocent people, get infected by it. They never meant, they did not intend to come in contact with it. They definitely don't want to live with it. If they knew what it was, they would get rid of it. But if they could, but that's what happens to a virus. Innocent people, it's contagious. And so you have, like Yossi was saying, people who are innocent and don't know the real facts on the ground. Why should they believe otherwise? This is the story they're being told. And like you say, we're losing the PR battle because sometimes when you have the truth, you don't feel like you have to create a PR about it. When you're lying, you got to create PR. That's how you sell the story. But when you know the truth, you're like, I don't have to create PR. This is the truth, but that's a mistake because people only see your narrative. They don't see your experience. And so students are infected with something that they have no intent to. They don't mean it maliciously whatsoever. They do not mean it anti-Semitically. And they didn't realize they caught a bug and they're spewing hate, they're spewing lies. And one of the things I would tell students, you say, well, oh, Rabbi, obviously you're saying that, you're all pro-Israel, you don't care, etc. You don't care about the atrocities, you're whitewashing, pinkwashing, all this great stuff. Explore on your own. We live in a world, information era. You can find information anywhere. Find a valid source, not just some fake news source. Find a credible source with a credible author, and do something even more than that. You're in college now. You're meant to question everything. When you get these anti-Semitic accusations about Israel, just ask why. See why. Why are Israelis committing genocide to Palestinians? Why? That's the claim. Why are they stealing other people's land? Why? When you try to get the answers to those whys, you'll realize there is no answer and there is no claim. There's no colonialism going on. Jews don't want to conquer the world. You say like, oh, where are they trying to conquer? We can barely run our own synagogues and organizations. What else are we trying to conquer? There's no oil there. There's no diamonds there. What are we trying to conquer? What beef do we have with the Palestinians that we want to commit genocide? It's nonsense. Once you start asking, really, they're doing that? Why would they be doing that? They're haters, right? How come I see them in support in so many countries around the world when there's a disaster in so many non-Jewish countries, in so many Muslim countries, they have relationships with Arab Muslim countries. If they're such haters, why do they have great relationship and they offer medical aid, financial aid, technological partnerships with people? Why in their own parliament, on their own Supreme Court, could they have Muslims or Arabs? So really, just ask why. Students, be wise when you hear something, when someone's spewing hate about anyone. Do a little investigation. We have a big thing in Judaism, as much as we rodef shalom, we want to pursue peace, as much as we tzedek tirdof, we want to run after justice, and as much as it's part of our DNA to fight for the underdog, it's also part of our DNA to be dan l'chavschus, which means to judge favorably, to do our due diligence, not just to jump to conclusions and to write people off and to paint people with large strokes and to buy into propaganda. Fight for the causes, fight for justice, fight with all your might, but do your due diligence, research it, ask why, and when you determine it's a true ailment, fight it. Don't get caught up fighting something that's nonsense, that's not the truth, and meanwhile your energies are not where they could be.
Very powerful. Thank you for sharing that thought. We have just a few minutes left, and I want to kind of give give you both the floor and share. You know, you've shared a lot of your thoughts on the Chabad kind of point of view. What are the things that Chabad has done? And obviously, you know, Jewish students, Zionist students are harassed and discriminated against. Like Rabbi Chein, you mentioned, you know, they're scared to wear kippah or put a mezuzah because of what's happening on campuses. But you know, if you had advice for students or for alumni who are watching right now on ways to help to fight anti-Semitism and this kind of anti-Zionist approach at their alma maters, you know, what other advice can you give? What other things do you want to share that Chabad on campus is doing or wants to or is planning on doing? Maybe, you know, it's obviously interesting you talked about a virus because we're in an era where we're in a pandemic, and we'll see what happens come the fall time when and if schools come back. But I'd love to hear from both of you kind of what advice do you have that you want to share, or what are some words that you want to share of wisdom, since you're both you know, Rabbi Chein, you're in college world, like physically in a campus. Yossi, you deal with college students on an everyday basis. What are things that you think would be helpful for alumni to know? Maybe we'll start with Yossi this time.
Oh, thank you. I've been drying up over here.
Happy to help.
It's interesting. Avi, when are we going to talk about the trip that we had to Israel together? You don't think the people want to know?
Yeah, I think it was 5 years ago now, almost, which is unbelievable.
But now you're a married man, you know, it's just what happens in Israel stays in Israel. You have to come back.
There you go.
It's funny because we're talking about there was a tremendous focus on security and anti-Semitism before this started, and we're like, can't wait to go back to anti-Semitism. You know, just got to get rid of this virus. You know, because that was front and center. So the question was supporting students. I can just go back to the creating or helping students to create their own strong Jewish identity. That's a critical element of what we do. And the truth is, we've been breaking our heads over this for the last couple of months, because this move into the virtual space, where who knows when we're going to go back to, you know, the trips, but even the big Shabbatons, or even, you know, the Shabbat meals that we have at Chabad on campus. You know, I was listening to the webinar a couple of weeks ago where you had from the Israel Campus Coalition, and he referenced a great site about when schools are opening up, and you see the amount of schools that have already decided for next year that are going to be only online, and then you have like the half, and then you have what was a majority of schools that are planning on opening up in person, but that number is going down. So it's going to be a while. I'll tell you, as a Chabad rabbi, as somebody that has a certain addiction to helping other Jews put on tefillin. I think you experienced that addiction firsthand when we spent a week together. I think that's probably one of the biggest challenges we have right now. How to get somebody virtually to put on tefillin, or, you know, how to harass them enough, you know, to study some Torah together. So we're brainstorming about that. We got to get creative, and we got to be there for the students, both in their Judaism, but also emotionally. We need to be there for them as a support and a network for them, and all that leads to a healthy mind, a healthy body. You need all of those things in order to be able to get up in the morning and do what you have to do.
Absolutely, I agree. I think that's an interesting challenge that I didn't even think about, is, you know, all the ways of the human interactions that Chabad has and how important that is. But Rabbi Chein, I'll give it to you as well, and also any advice that you might have for alumni.
Yeah, so I'll conclude with where I began, that every center is different, and Chabad loves to focus on the uniqueness of each individual, each location. And I would say the best thing alumni can do who want to help in this situation is call the Chabad rabbi at your alma mater. Call the Chabad rabbi say, what could I do? What's the situation in our school right now? It's not the same everywhere, both not in the levels of anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism, both not in the challenges of the pandemic. Every state, every city has different guidelines. So call. And if you're afraid to call because he might solicit you for a donation, well, first of all, don't be afraid. Tzedakah is a great mitzvah, and if he asks you and you give, it'll feel great. And if he asks you and you say no, you'll laugh and you'll say, "Ha, I knew that's going to happen." But you could tell him straight out. You say, "Rabbi, I'm not calling. I don't have the opportunity right now. I can't give. I want to be there and support another way. I went to this school. I live there. I'm passionate about it. Tell me what's going on right now and tell me how I could help. Here's how I could be of help. I could be a help as a writer. I could be a help. I can speak to students. I could be a help this way, that way." And you can say where I can't be of help. Just form a relationship, be open. In Chabad, we love to work with people, and each place is different. Each person, what they could contribute back to their old alma mater and the way they could assist is different. So it's really not one blanket piece of advice for all Chabadis, neither for all alumni. You know your strengths, you know the blessings God gave you and where you could help and in what way. Call your school, make that conversation, and see what you can get going on over there. I want to finish, if I could, with a story, a little anecdote. That's Chabad. I can't believe we just didn't have enough stories. This is usually all I do, stories. But this is a little incident. Early in the beginning of this school year, it feels like ages ago, students started coming to Chabad House Friday night. He's actually a junior. He came in, and from the first Friday night, he's like, "Rabbi, I didn't know this treasure exists. This place is incredible. I feel so at home. I love it here. You're going to be seeing me here." I'm like, "Excellent. That's exactly why we're here. We're here for you to feel at home. We're doing our job. Come back whenever you want." Yeah, and sure enough, he started coming. And then conversation. He tells me he's from the East Coast. I'm like, "Oh, no way. Lanzmann, he's from one of the suburbs around New York." I'm like, "No way. New Yorker, what are you doing? It's a state school. We don't get many out-of-towners, especially not East Coasters, mostly Californians." I'm like, "No way." And then, another week he tells me, he says, "Actually, in my town, there's a Chabad rabbi who comes there on occasion for Shabbos in my suburb. And sometimes he stays in my parents' house." And I'm like, "Oh, you're kidding me?" I say, "What's the name of the Chabad rabbi?" He tells me the Chabad rabbi's name. I'm like, "Oh, I know that guy." Because in Brooklyn, he lives in Brooklyn at the same street, the same block as my parents. So I know the guy, I see the guy, grew up. So I'm like, "Oh, we had great. Next time I'm in New York, I'm going to give him your regards. Tell me, I tell the student's name is Jordan. I tell the student, "What's your parents' name?" So he tells me his parents' name. I said, "Next time I'm in New York, I'm going to ask I'll give your regards." Next time I'm in New York, I bump into this guy, this Chabad rabbi. We're, of course, at the Rebbe's Ohel. It's where all Chabad rabbis end up meeting. I say, "By the way, do you know so-and-so?" So he tells me, "Who, so-and-so, your cousin?" I say, "No, not my cousin. This guy, his student is by me in Santa Cruz, and the student told me that you go to his house." He says, "Yeah, Shloime, that's your cousin. I go to your cousin." I'm like, "No way." I don't want to say name online publicly, but let's say his name was Michael Cohen. I'm like, "No way. That's Michael Cohen, my cousin. His kid comes to my house every Friday night." I freak out. I couldn't believe it. I'm in New York, and I go back to my mother's house. Right on my mother's refrigerator is a picture of me as a kid next to this kid's father at a party in my house. And I take a picture of the picture, and of course, I come back to Santa Cruz. I tell the kid, he's got to come over. I have something to show him. And he freaks out. He's like, "Oh my goodness, I didn't even know you. You're my cousin. You knew my father before I knew my father." And we're sharing. And then to speak about what Yossi says, Chabad would love to put on tefillin. I say, "Jordan, let me tell you a secret. I have a family heirloom. My great-grandfather's pure tefillin. That's this kid's great uncle. His great-grandfather and my great-grandfather were brothers, and I have the pure tefillin." I say, "Jordan, let's put on," and I'm named after that guy, Shlomo. I said, "Let's put on Zaidi Shlomo's pure tefillin." Oh my goodness, the family connection. We're going back in time to a Jewish heirloom. We put on tefillin. What a beautiful moment. And we chatted. He's since been here many times. And one of the beautiful things he told me, and why I want to share the story, he says, "Shlomo, you know what the crazy thing is? I felt like family here before I knew we were family. it didn't really change. It's cool that we're family, but I felt like family here. And so whether we're talking to alumni or community members or to students, I just want to let two things. One, Chabad is your family on campus. If you need something, call them up, go there, be there. People feel like family as if you were cousins, as if you were brothers or part of family. And secondly, the other thing we've been talking about all day is that this tefillin is really all of our heirlooms. Everything in Judaism is our inheritance that belongs to all of us. And when we tap into it and we celebrate it together, we're celebrating a family heirloom together. It's something that's beautiful. It's something that's uplifting. And you're having a hard day in the world of Corona, or you're having a hard day in the world of anti-Semitism, or just a hard day on a week or a hard week on campus. Come celebrate it with family. Experience your own heirloom, fellow family members, and whether you do that virtually or, God willing, soon in person, you'll be smiling for a long time after that.
Wow, that's an amazing story. What a powerful, powerful message. And I want to thank you both for your time. And I think your advice, Rabbi Chein, is really powerful that I wanted to just reiterate, and that is for all alumni. You can work through us because we have a great relationship with Chabad on campus, but to get in touch with the local Chabad rabbis and Rebbitzin, and to see what's going on campus, because like every Shabbat, even also during the week, obviously as well, they're talking and with students all the time and know what's going on and hear from the students' mouth as well, kind of the unfiltered version of what's happening on campuses. And I think that that's really powerful and can be a powerful tool for us to use as the alumni voice to help the students on the ground. So to really speak and reach out to Chabad, and we're gonna, our goal is to be working even closer. We had Tamway, who is, I forget what his title is, but he was at our inaugural Alums for Campus Fairness conference in February before all of the virus kind of spread to America. And we were very thankful to have a better partnership with Chabad on campus, and are looking forward to continuing it. And I want to thank both of you for taking the time to be with us. And I wanted to share with our network that this is, we're concluding our webinar series for the summer and taking a little bit of a hiatus. Wishing everyone a great rest of the summer, and we'll be back when the time of the school year comes, even though that could be different. Yossi, you mentioned that Jacob Boehm from the Israel Campus Coalition mentioned about when schools are opening and whatnot. So obviously everything is still very fluid, and we're going to be seeing what's happening and working within it. And unfortunately, things are still happening to this day on campuses, and it's important for all of us to stay vigilant and to stay on top of what's going on campuses. But with that, we're going to take a break, take a breather. Let's kind of absorb everything that we just learned today with Chabad on campus, and we'll be back for more afterwards. But thank you, Rabbi Chein. Thank you, Yossi Witkes from Chabad on campus, from our very special trip we had many years ago together. And Rabbi Chein, I think it's important for us
Bro
to share.
code.
Bro code, but also Rabbi Chein, that your brother is one of the Chabad rabbis at Binghamton, who I know as well. So I have a personal connection with both of you, showing that there is this family connection, which is very cool to be a part of. So thank you both for your time. Thank you for being with us and for your partnership with Alums for Campus Fairness. And we'll talk to you both soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Be well. Shabbat shalom.
Thank you. Shabbat shalom. Early Shabbat shalom. Be well. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.